I've just checked. It's now past morning, isn't it? Okay. Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok, the Principal Secretary, Governors Nadif Jamal of Garissa County, Governor Jeremiah Lomorukai of Turkana County, the High Commissioner for Refugees, His Excellency Filippo Grandi, the UN Habitat Executive Director, Madame Sharif, the US Ambassador to Kenya, Madame Margaret Whitman, UNHR's CR Regional Bureau Office, the UNHR CR Country Representative Caroline Van Buren, EU Heads of Missions in the Horn of Africa, Excellencies, Ambassadors, and High Commissioners, the Refugee Donor Group represented by Her Excellency Ambassador Geiger, Commissioner for Refugee Affairs, senior government officials, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I welcome you to this high-level dialogue on the Shirika plan aimed at providing local integration in line with durable solutions for refugees and host communities. Kenya has a rich history of hosting refugees and asylum seekers. Our sustained stability, favorable policies, and the welcoming nature of our citizens has made our country a favorite shelter for our neighbors escaping political and other unrests in their home countries. Kenya is the 13th largest refugee hosting nation in the world and 5th in Africa. Currently, 612,000 registered refugees and asylum seekers are hosted in Kenya. 84% of this population is resident in the camps, while the balance is in urban areas. Somalia, South Sudan, and the DRC are the top 3 sources of our refugee population, with 56%, 30%, and 7% respectively. There are also 94,000 refugees, mainly in our major towns of Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru, and Eldoret, among others. The government of Kenya has an obligation, both under the international and Kenyan laws, to offer security and protection services to all persons, irrespective of their status within its jurisdiction. Kenya is a signatory to the following: the 1951 Convention relating to status of refugees and its 1967 protocol, the 1969 OAU Convention of the 2016 New York Declaration, the Global Compact for Refugees, and the 2019 Global Refugee Framework. There have also been the Nairobi Declaration, Kampala Declaration, Djibouti Declaration, Mombasa Declaration, Munyonyo Declaration, and other regional commitments under the Intergovernmental Authority and Development, IGAD, and the East African Community. In line with these commitments, Kenya has made significant milestones towards providing solutions to the protracted refugee situation in the region. Kenya has been a robust participant in the preparation and adoption of regional agreements on refugee management. Among these, a New York Declaration, which came up with the Comprehensive Refugee Response Framework, CRRF, to cost share the burden of hosting refugees on host countries. In 2022, Kenya developed its Comprehensive Refugee Response Framework, known as the SHARE, not the political share. Subsequently, the Refugee Act number 10 of 2021 was enacted. Kenya has made several strides in the domestication of the CRRF in terms of education, health, and social protection. Kenya currently is managing refugees through encampment policy, where refugees reside in camps. We have 2 camps, namely Kakuma and Dadaab, as you have heard. Allow me to note that the care and maintenance approach has, however, not supported the effective leverage of the social economic potential of our refugees. It has not purposed to tap into the refugees' enormous potential to support the growth of host regions and the management of adverse environmental impact of the refugees. Our administration is fully aware of the need to give full focus and attention to sustainable refugee management. Soon, as you have heard, the regulations to operationalize the Refugee Act 2021 will be tabled in Parliament for necessary approval and enactment. Let me also say that as a government, we are committed to creating an enabling environment that supports the socioeconomic inclusion of refugees and the collective efforts to build the resilience of host communities. Last year, the government regazetted the Ifo2 and Kambio camps. The registration of members of the Somali community has consequently commenced. Recently, we have reopened our border with the Republic of Somalia and established 3 border points to serve as entry points. These will not only serve business, trade, and tourism interests, but also genuine asylum seekers. It is important to recognize the global shift in refugee management. Host countries are increasingly turning into settlements for refugees. This approach has 2 aims: to reduce reliance on humanitarian help from host governments and other humanitarian agencies, and to make refugees self-reliant and important players in the growth of host countries' economies. Kenya cannot afford to be an exception to this trend. I wish to reiterate the commitment of the government to transform refugee camps into integrated settlements. By promoting the socioeconomic inclusion of refugees, we are collectively preparing them for the eventual voluntary repatriation to their home countries. Your Excellencies, to anchor this shift, in 2022, the government developed the Shirika plan to provide the relevant policy and implementation roadmap. This is part of the reason why we are here today. The plan will ensure that host communities in Turkana and Garissa benefit from additional development support. It will also promote peaceful coexistence between refugees and host communities and save host centers from turning into ghost towns when refugees eventually leave. Socioeconomic inclusion is therefore a win-win proposition for everyone. Over the years, the government has endeavored to ensure that refugees participate in nation building. To this end, both national and county governments hosting refugees have incorporated refugees in their development policies and strategic plans. The Kalo Beye Integrated Socioeconomic Development Plan in Turkana and the Garissa Integrated Socioeconomic Development Plan that factor in the social economic inclusion of refugees are good examples. I understand that the county government of Nairobi has fully embraced refugees in its current 5-year development plan. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge our development partners' support for our settlement vision. In particular, I would like to thank the UNHCR country representative through the High Commissioner, the UN Habitat in Nairobi, who together with the World Bank are funding the infrastructure for the recently elevated Kakuma and Kalobeye municipalities. The World Bank has committed $50 million grant for both municipalities. Additionally, through the Ministry of Education and Department of Refugee Services, the World Bank is supporting joint implementation of the Kenya Primary Education Equity Learning, where 117,000 refugee and host community children are to benefit from post-primary scholarships. I also recognize the European Union, UNICEF, GP, IFIs, the European Union Group, just to mention a few, who have expressed interest in supporting the operationalization of the program. This leads me to the clarion call to the international community and the private sector partners. I urge you to increase your financial and technical support to promote the socio-economic inclusion of refugees. The policy commitments the government of Kenya is making will only yield desired results with your enhanced support. Building the necessary self-reliance and resilience for refugees and host communities obliges us to dedicate more financial and material investments that the government alone cannot meet. I therefore urge you to match proclamations with the necessary support to make durable and sustainable solutions of integrated settlements a reality. Be part of this transformation. Make your contribution to the Shirika plan. As we endeavor to create a conducive environment for refugees in our country, we should not forget other viable solutions to this end. I would like to emphasize that we regard peace and stability in refugees' countries of origin as integral to a realistic quest for the refugee settlement. It is for this reason that Kenya is investing heavily in peace efforts in the region. Last week, for example, the Intergovernmental Authority for Development, IGAD, heads of state and governments mandated His Excellency the President of Kenya to lead the mediation efforts to broker peace in Sudan. In conclusion, I would like to reiterate Kenya's commitment to the refugees' cause. We look forward to working with the international community and local partners to facilitate a dignified environment for refugees in Kenya, even as we prioritize voluntary return home, should conditions in their countries of origin permit. Let me finally thank Filippo. When he mentioned the fundraising efforts had closed close to $200 million, that is definitely a very tremendous achievement. Thank you for those efforts, and we'll be very happy to see others chipping in the kitty towards this cause. Just to also reiterate that the need for that integration remains very important in support of communities. One of the biggest debates we have had in Kenya for quite some time is that sometimes when supporting the refugees, the Kenyan farmer has been neglected. We sometimes always grapple about the price of maize, the price of wheat, what does it take? And one of the pleas that we have always made is that within the package of providing relief food, for either refugees or those that are needy, the international community should also embrace and commit higher purchases from the local farmer to feed these communities. It is sometimes tragic when we see that the farmer in Kenya is struggling to sell his maize or her maize, but we are steadily importing all the grain to feed these refugee camps from elsewhere. So the support goes to another farmer, but it does not come to the host farmer. So within the framework of your reorganization, I also pitch now for the Kenyan farmer, so that when you're supplying that relief support, please think of how you can increase the offtake from the Kenyan farmer. With those few remarks, I am now very happy to have been associated with this very important conference. Thank you, and I wish you success.